So there's three things in psychology that really have always I've kind of always noticed in life, and I never really knew what they were called or anything. All I knew was that they drove me insane. And after doing research and stuff like that, and especially lately looking more and more and trying to study into psychology and figure it out, I've learned that they do have names, and I want to talk about three things instead of one. I could have made 3 videos out of this. I honestly thought about waiting and making this video because I'm so passionate about what I'm about to talk about until I had a better setup, until I had I wasn't just some dude in front of a camera, and maybe it could be taken a little more seriously from people, but I hope you get something out of this. So the first one's called herd mentality. And that is described on here as herd mentality is the tendency to follow what everyone else is doing, often without thinking critically about whether it's actually the best choice. So people do this because we assume the group knows something we don't, is one reason. We want to fit in and avoid standing out. Or our brains use social cues as a shortcut for making decisions. That, to me, this is just the beginning, okay? Just wait for this. I'm just going to explain all 3 and then we'll dive in. Examples: buying a product because everyone else is. Believing a rumor because so many people repeat it. Jumping on internet trends without questioning them. Okay? That's the first one. The second one is groupthink. Groupthink is what happens when a close-knit group values agreement more than finding the truth. Instead of asking, is this the best idea, members begin asking, how do we keep everyone on the same page? Signs of groupthink include discouraging disagreement, ignoring evidence that contradicts the group's beliefs, feeling pressure to conform, becoming overconfident because everyone agrees. This often leads to worse decisions because important criticisms never get voiced. And last, but definitely not least, this is the one that aggravates me the most, is tribalism. Tribalism is on our psychological tendency to divide people into us versus them. Humans evolved, if you believe in evolution, in small groups where loyalty increased survival, so our brains naturally trust people who seem like our tribe, distrust outsiders more easily, defend our group's beliefs and identity. Today, tribes aren't just families or villages. They can be political parties, sports fans, religions, online communities, brands, even preferences like iPhone versus Android or PlayStation versus Xbox. Okay, now that I've broken it down, I would like to dive in a little bit here. So I'm going to save tribalism for last because that one I have a lot to say. And I'm going to try to just, instead of making this an insanely long video, I'm going to try to dive in. So they all do fit together. And so we assume the group knows something we don't. I feel like that is huge, man. Our brains use social cues as a shortcut for decisions. Does this not sound like a recipe for disaster to anybody but me? It is so crazy to witness a lot of this stuff. When you put all of these together, when you put herd mentality and then you put tribalism and groupthink all together, you get a recipe for disaster. However, at the same time, you look around and you can see it everywhere. You can see the form of videos where people will go out in public and try to have public conversations with people. And a lot of times people will walk up to the mic and start to say their opinion on something and then not have a clue. They don't even know why they believe that. They can't answer the question why they have the belief. They just say, I just believe this way. And you can be like, why? The person interviewing them will be like, why? And they just simply do not have an answer. They cannot answer why because they haven't thought for themselves. This is very easily used by big corporations, the government, all of it can be very easily used for brainwashing as well. I mean, it's insane that we're still like this as a human race to me, and I find it insane that nobody even thinks about it or notices it. And if they do notice it, I don't hear them talking about it. This all blows me away. Now, you have to understand about me personally is when it comes to psychology, I normally am just super intrigued and I'm fascinated and a lot of times excited to learn about different subjects under this. But man, when it gets to these topics, I actually have a hard time not getting angry because I get so frustrated at it. I find it to be, it's kind of like a child or a teenager. Like right now, my daughter is 7 years old. My son is 16. I expect my daughter to be like a 7-year-old. I expect my son to be like a 16-year-old. But at some point, I'm going to expect them to grow up. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that as a whole in my brain towards humanity. Is like, at some point, when are we going to stop being like this? This seems so like last century, last freaking whatever, freaking, a billion, thousand, quadruple, freaking billion years is. It sounds like cavemen to me. It's in a way, you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it, I guess, but. So the groupthink thing is what, so we'll group up, and a lot of times you see this in politics for real, where it's like, I'm on the left or I'm on the right, and this is, this is our group, this is our tribe, and anyone who's not in it, screw you. Other things that I've read up on this will even say that sometimes in groupthink, people are afraid to speak up, and the people that do speak up get berated and talked down to and, just relentlessly punished emotionally for it. And so they're scared to, that's what this version says, discouraging disagreement. The other version was saying it was pretty gnarly. Like, it's not just discouraging. It's like, if you do it, you're going to pay a price for it. Tribalism. And, we trust people who seem to be like our tribe. And I know all of this can go way deeper into like more, under psychology and all that, way deeper as to like why we would have been this way in the past and like why and all this and why we are this way. But you have to understand, man, I was homeschooled and like pretty sheltered as a child. So like by the time I was like put out into the world, I felt like an alien. I still do feel like an alien put into society. Like, I wasn't used to being around this stuff. So it still does. I think that's why, for me personally, I'm, cynical and stuff like that on top of it, is because I don't like the way this is. Because I had a whole different idea in my brain of what life was. And then when I learned what apparently it is, I've been disgusted ever since in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not saying I'm right all the time or whatever, and like society as a whole is wrong, but when it comes to this, I think these are issues. These are problematic. So let's dive in a little bit. So it says like political parties, religions, sports fans, online communities, brands, and it can even go down to something as petty as an iPhone or an Android. And, like, the fact that it can go that petty is pretty crazy to me. And the fact that when you put all of these together, you will get a group they find their group, right? They get a group, then they all think the same, and they're discouraged from thinking any differently, even speaking up and voicing an opinion that might be outside of the realm of their own thinking. And then, so you're basically punished. You're essentially punished. And then, like, even down to the herd mentality, that plays into it too, because you want to fit in and avoid standing out, right? So like, you don't want to go against it. And then to use social cues as a shortcut for making decisions, that's scary. Because people are not always trustworthy. In my view, like I said, I'm a cynic. I view people as mainly selfish and mainly, out for themselves. So that's not a good sign to me. When I add all of this up, it is a definite recipe for disaster. And you can see it with, like I said, with the people who don't even know why they think the things they think. All they do is they find their tribe and they go into that tribe, and then they want to fit in with the tribe. They're scared to speak up. They're scared to go outside of it. It doesn't matter. When it comes to politics, it does not matter if you're on the left or the right or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter outside of politics if you're on PlayStation or Xbox or PC or whatever. There's always some kind of like deep-rooted arrogance to me behind the fact that it's like, mine is better. Why can't it just be like, oh, this is my preference, oh, that's yours, how come? And like, let's just like talk about it, right? It's never that way. I mean, rarely is it that way. You can run into people, but it's very seldom for me to ever run into people like that. It's usually just like, there's a type of arrogance that eventually goes into it. And then it can go into other psychological factors as well, where you feel like backed up by these people. So, like, I couldn't be wrong because I have all these people that believe the same as me. So you never really question it. Like I've seen that with my ex-wife. My ex-wife surrounded herself with people after we split up that only thought like she did, and so anybody outside of that circle was just wrong. So God forbid you come in and you try to tell her that this is wrong, because no, not only do they think like me, but God thinks like me. So you're just flat out wrong, and I am always right? It's just to me, I think that's the part that irks me about that, is that I try to stay as a human. I try to stay open-minded. I try to stay vigilant for the times that I'm not. And I try to I don't have a lot of friends because I don't care to. I don't care to fit in. I don't want to fit in. It's not something that's like, I really want to fit in really bad, so I just going to follow along. It's like, no, if I don't agree, I'm just not going to agree. And that's just how I am. And I think that is because of how I was raised, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I'm the way that I am, because I don't want to be, it really does, from my perspective, kind of looking out at like society, it starts to kind of like seem like zombies, like all brainwashed zombies walking around because these people think this is how I'm going to think. They don't really put any critical thinking in. I would like to know what you guys think about this stuff. Some of my notes, I was kind of studying up, thinking about all of this for this video. And it's, it says like, imagine someone joins an online community. Tribalism makes them identify strongly with the group. Groupthink discourages questioning the group's opinions. Herd mentality makes them repeat those opinions because everyone else does. My God, man, if you cannot see an issue, I don't know how to convince you it's an issue. That to me is terrifying, that it even happens, and that it's so easily triggered in humans. Like, that is like specific to humans. It's specific to our level of intelligence, and I think that that's something that we all should think about. I would encourage every single person that's watching this video to do your own research. There is tons of stuff that I've talked about, that I've like written down for this. I've gone on ChatGPT, I've gone on Google, I've gone on in different areas and like watched different YouTube videos trying to figure out everything I can on this. And I wanted to save like all the juicy bits for that. And I think I like for what I was saying earlier, where I could like dive deeper in. But I could do a part 2 just like this if you want, and we could go deeper. But I think like this, all of this, the way that I presented it with the tribalism, groupthink, and herd mentality, kind of speaks for itself. Like, I think if you really kind of just stop and put a little effort into thinking about it, you'll see what I'm saying, how that could be problematic and how it is problematic. I think it causes a lot of division in society as a whole and humanity as a whole, because this isn't just like an American thing. This is humans, right? So like, I remember I had a job one time, and I worked at this huge plant. It was over 1 million square foot building. And I remember, because I am the way that I am, I worked with all women, and because I am the way that I am, I'm another thing that I'll cover eventually is conformity. I have a hard time even wanting to. I almost push back at even the thought of it, in a lot of areas in life. I remember I was like the outsider. I was like, there was a whole clique of my coworkers who sat at this one table, and there was probably like 10 or 15, I think, and I was literally the only guy just sitting off by myself because I didn't care to try to conform. And people do not like when you don't want to conform to their tribe. They do not like it. It's kind of like it says, it's like us versus them mentality. And so you end up, when you choose to be like I am, you end up being on the outside. So it's like, if you're going to already join a group and of people or whatever to call your tribe, and you're afraid to speak up against any ideas within the group, without getting a lashing in some form of under the umbrella of psychology, then why would you not just prevent yourself from doing that and to begin with? Go ahead, get the lashing over with, and just not like me or not want me around because I don't want to be in your tribe. Like, I would rather go ahead and cut to that, cut to the chase, because I'm not going to sit here while I let everybody like tell me what I think whenever that's not what I think. I would hope there is more people than it appears online and stuff that is out there that think like me. I would hope that there's more people that would push back against the tribalism, the herd mentality, and the groupthink, and would try to not be like that. Because I am a firm believer, after studying all of this, that it is definitely holding us back. And this is almost a 20-minute video, so I have so much I could say about this, man, but I'm going to try to cut it off here. If you want a part 2, I'll do it, or I can do it at a later time. I was planning on my next one being about how the internet can affect psychology. This can be interesting if you're into evolution. Not everybody is. That's why I haven't spoken much about it. But like, if you're into evolution, they have their scientific reasons and stuff for the whys and all of that, and the hows and the whats and the whos of why we are like this. I just know from my perspective that I don't like this. I don't like that it's like this. I think that it's old news, man. Like, can we move on? Can we think for ourselves? I don't think that a lot of bigger, we'll just call them organizations and stuff, want us to think for ourselves. And I think that we're being, I might sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist here, but I think there's many times that humanity can be easily herded in to a spot where they want us because of groupthink and because of tribalism and because of just way more than these reasons too. Not herd think, but herd mentality, group think, and tribalism. And way more than that too, like, they're not stupid. They know how to play us. And I just think it's sad to kind of sit back and watch it happen. So I would love to know your thoughts on this. It could go way deeper. I just didn't want to dive too deep in right away. But we could take this to more levels, trust me. There's a lot to this stuff. That's what I love about psychology, that's why I love learning about it, is I could sit for hours and just learn about it. It fascinates me. But I would love for you to let me know what you think, and as far as like my community on YouTube, if I ever hit a spot on YouTube where like I have a huge following, I don't want anybody left out, and I don't want any of this stuff going on. I want us to all be able to say what we think, as long as it's in a respectful way, and as long as, it's presented properly. Why not consider what other people think? That is the best way to move forward in life, in my opinion, instead of all of this BS. So let's discuss this, please. For now, let's stop there. Let's discuss what we think. And I would love to hear about it, honestly. I'm going to move on and make a short to try to, I get way, YouTube, you get way more views on your shorts than your, at least for me and a lot of other people, than the long form content. You can barely get people to stay, pay attention more than a few seconds now. But I'm going to go ahead and do that short, and hopefully have some people come over to this video from there and check it out. Please do like. As I said on my last one, I'm starting to see why everybody says like and subscribe, because it helps a ton, man. Like it's the best way to push these videos out. I think this is not only just like an interesting topic, but it's something that needs to be discussed and needs to be looked over. You research it too, or you can just tell me to, and I'll do another video about stuff, this same topic even. I don't care. I'll break each individual one down to the best of my ability and share every little part about it, because I would like to educate as well. So yes, thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to this point. I love you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to see when I do post, and share this with a friend. I think this needs to be looked at more. It's like nobody even talks about it or thinks about it, and it's just like, this bothers me so much in life that blows me away. But all right, thank you guys. I love you. I will see you on the next one. Peace out.